Disclaimer, this video exists for the purposes of entertainment, education, and theory rebuttal. Furthermore, considering the subject of this video is game theory, I want to make it clear that this video is not an attack on MatPat as a person outside of his chosen YouTube profession. I only wish to show the flaws in his theories and practices while creating theories. Unless there is substantial evidence, it is not assumed MatPat still stands behind the video in question, and when addressing older videos, I do so in a vacuum, speaking only to MatPat's assumed mindset at the time of the video's creation. If you harass or witch hunt anyone involved with this video, I will personally disown you. Thank you. Whoa, you guys, covering MatPat again. Wow. MatPat needs no introduction. This video is going to be short as heck. It's a Luigi's Mansion theory entitled Luigi, the richest man in the Mushroom Kingdom that's going to try to prove that Luigi's filthy stinking rich, and heck does it have problems. Let's go.
How much did this little failed mission of King Boo's cost? I mean, outside of just being horrendously elaborate, it also had to be seriously expensive. And that's not me just coming up with a random topic for an episode. Money plays a huge role throughout this game, ultimately determining the size of the new mansion that Luigi gets at the end of the game. In other words, there is value to all of this stuff that you see, from the house itself to the gold and jewels contained inside, but how much is it?
My first point of contention. The mansion was fake. I know this is a point MatPat doesn't seem to maybe realize, seeing as he also messed this up in the Rosalina Unmasked theory, but everything in that mansion besides the treasure was completely fake and disappeared after Luigi's mansion finished. Besides the treasure, nothing in this mansion is worth anything because, quite frankly, it all doesn't exist. That said, I'm still going to be covering some of this because it's important.
But why do we need to know Luigi's height? Well, knowing it, we can figure out the length of Luigi's stride and the speed at which he moves through this game. That in turn allows me to figure out the dimensions of any given room in the mansion by timing how long it takes to get him to run across it. And it has to be measured in time, since it's incredibly difficult to account for the slanted perspective of the game, which would throw off the traditional pixel measurements of the room.
Here goes MatPat using the most inefficient measurement method possible. You mean to tell me there was no other way to do this? No, I know there's a better way to do this. Case in point, boundary break.
Where we basically take the camera anywhere we want and we try to break the boundaries of some of our favorite Nintendo games to find as many undiscovered goodies as we possibly can.
The boundary break episode on Luigi's Mansion came out months before this video came out, so there's no excuse for using such an unreliable measuring method when you could just as easily use free camera. Just look at the footage and you'll see why I say that. Luigi accelerates when he starts running. This can easily throw off your measurements using this method. It's a small thing considering that in the long run the size of the mansion doesn't matter anyway. As I already said, the mansion is fake and disappeared at the end of the game. It's still worth noting though.
In short, all of these design details clearly point to one era in architecture, Victorian. And not just any old Victorian style, this mansion very distinctly falls into what's called the Victorian Second Empire style. It's called Second Empire because it's an architectural style that became popular during the reign of Emperor Napoleon III in France. This was a period where the French Empire was rebuilding itself, thus creating a Second Empire in the mid-1800s. Make sense? Second Empire Victorian. Look at that. Video games teaching you about old world European architectural trends. Where else online you can find stuff like this?
You'd have a very solid point here, MatPat. Except that this isn't the real world. This is the Mushroom Kingdom, where buildings typically look like this, and there are castles practically everywhere you look. There was no French Empire, there was no Queen Victoria, and architectural trends are clearly very different. There's an overarching point here, but I'll let you guys figure out what that is if it isn't already obvious.
You see, the big twist here is that while the mansion might not be worth all that much, the piles and piles and piles of extra treasure that are hidden inside that mansion in the form of gems, coins, dollar bills, and frickin' gold bars are worth a whole heck of a lot more. And they're real, as we see Luigi using all of this wealth at the end of the game to pay for his new house.
You're gonna make me go crazy here, MatPat. You just acknowledged that the ending exists. The screen directly before the one you show where you point out Luigi got a new house directly states that the mansion disappears. You had to have seen that. Factoring the mansion or anything in it into this video is completely pointless as it is directly stated that the mansion disappeared.
So, using the cheapest value of a good delivery gold bar at the smallest size of 350 troy ounces, or just over 10 kilograms to determine the approximate value of 1 G. G, which is the game's currency. By doing that, I learned that these ghosts have dumped over $500 million worth of change in between those couch cushions. And if you think that I'm pulling that number out of thin air, oh no, my friends, think again. We priced as much as we could. Here's a brief glimpse of that shopping list. In other words, in one rundown mansion, King Boo and his thugs crammed over 500 other mansions worth of treasure into the place. Just sitting there waiting to be vacuumed up.
Hey, MatPat. Mushroom Kingdom. Did you ever wonder why the endings of the games are what they are? When Luigi gets less than 5 million G, all he gets is a tent. Anything below 70 million gets you a normal-looking house. Why do you think that is if this stuff is worth so much? It's the same reason why exchange rates exist, and why some things are worth more in certain places than others. Gold and gemstones obviously aren't worth as much in the Mushroom Kingdom as they are in the real world. You can see gold coins just floating around aimlessly all over the world of Super Mario, so they can't be worth that much, can they? Gold is obviously a more plentiful resource than the Mushroom Kingdom, and as such, it probably wouldn't be worth as much. I'm not denying the fact that with all the money he can get from the mansion, Luigi would probably be rich. What I'm saying is that it probably wouldn't be as rich as MatPat is saying he'd be. Now, that's about it for this video. What are my thoughts? First off, MatPat doesn't seem to realize that the fictional world of the Mushroom Kingdom is obviously going to have different rules than the real world. Second off, MatPat doesn't seem to realize that the mansion is freaking God gosh dang it! Basically, the big thing is MatPat not realizing facts that are staring him in the face. Trying to figure out the economy of a fictional world where humongous solid gold coins are tossed around like they're nothing was the first and biggest misstep. Not recognizing the lore of Luigi's mansion, though, that was the worst misstep. Hey, this video is short. Bye.